Testing 1, 2. Oh, don't give me a microphone. I'll start doing comedy. How's everybody doing tonight?
She's a stand-up, guys. Look out.
If you had a meal and you left some of it on your shirt or it landed on your shirt, that means you dress in good taste.
Yeah.
Yes. You have to really lean into this one, don't you?
No, I used to say that.
I'm Jim. I didn't get a chance to see you earlier. I made the rounds, so I got here a little late.
Yeah, here we are.
Let's go ahead and kick it off. Because when I went to see if Stephen was here, he wouldn't have his table, so maybe he hasn't gotten in yet.
Stephen Canlon?
Manley.
Manley, he's here.
He's here, okay. Oh, okay.
He just doesn't know he's supposed to be here. So we'll also be Stephen.
Maybe he's going through Confar or something right
You can
now.
ask me questions and I'll pretend to be Stephen. I'll make up anything you want to hear.
We'll give him 5 more minutes here, or a couple more minutes.
You might not even know this is...
Shall we wait or just start doing a little something?
Yeah.
Okay.
We gotta fill in the blanks here.
That's true. We can get going.
Here he is.
Here he is. I was afraid you might have went through Confar or something. Come on in and join us.
Okay, terrific.
Steve didn't tell you, but if you look at him, remember him in Lethal Weapon. Doesn't he look like somebody was in Lethal Weapon with that hair?
Okay. Probably wondering why we called you all here today.
I don't know any money.
No. We're here with the Star Trek Irregulars. I hope you guys aren't offended with that. Because that's why they picked me to moderate. I'm a very irregular host. I basically just like to make you guys feel like you're sitting in the living room and just shooting the Just keep it nice and clean. This is going to be a fun one, especially for those of us who are old-time truckers. Because let me allow the three to introduce themselves to you all. So starting with Stephen here. Tell us who you are and what makes you a Star Trek Irregular.
A Star Trek Irregular. Is there a Star Trek Regular? I guess there is.
There must be.
Stephen Manley. I played the Pawn Spar Spock in Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock. Quite a responsibility when Leonard Nimoy doesn't audition you. He just sort of grills you in his office for about a half hour, 3 different days. And then at the end he said, all right, you got the job. I said, great, what am I doing? He said, you're playing me. So he had seen me in a TV series I was on, where I had some heavy dramatic scenes with a real heavy method actress named Zora Lampert. You've probably seen her before. She played a gypsy a lot. Actually, she got an Emmy for a gypsy she played on an episode of Kojak.
Yeah, we have a reverb going on somehow.
Yeah, that's true.
What is that? Maybe you move your mic that direction.
Yeah.
You mic that
I'm trying to
direction.
figure out which one's picking it up. Okay, Okay.
So he had seen my episode with Zora, who was a friend of his because he was a theater guy. He loved acting on stage. He figured if I could hold my own with her, I could deliver what he wanted me to do in Star Trek 3. Even though there wasn't any dialogue. There was grunting and groaning. But I said yes, I loved working with Zora. So that's what sealed the deal. He was a great fellow to work with. And I'm just realizing right now that it was October of 1983 when we were shooting for a week doing all those scenes.
3 years ago?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Boy, did that go by.
It does go by too quickly.
So that's me.
Fantastic.
Laura,
Well,
you're
thank
up
you.
next.
I will try to use this microphone. Does it? No.
Hello.
Yeah, Paul, you can put that up to make it closer to you. There you go.
I'm just going to try this.
Let's see it.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. So, I got these people taking care of me up here. I'm the girl up here. I'm Laura Banks. I navigated the USS Reliant in Star Trek II, The Wrath of Kahn. I worked on the project for, I guess we were on set for about 3.5 weeks and had the time of my life. I got the part by responding to an ad in Dramalog in Los Angeles. And after that, I went on to star in 3 action pictures for a fellow by the name of Roger Corman, who discovered Shatner and Coppola and Ron Howard. And James Cameron, and just a few other famous people. I almost did as well as some of those people, but I had a TV series on the Sci-Fi Channel for a while where I interviewed Carl Sagan, which was fun, and I was Maxine Headroom also. And I've become an author. I've written 4 books. One was a bestseller. My latest book, The Wrath of Blonde, The Making of Star Trek II, and other wild adventures as an Amazon in outer space is for sale. And a comically written, because I'm a comedian, and producing a graphic novel of that right now, and being looked at for a documentary. So that's excitement. And I don't know if there's anything else to tell you about me, except that I'm an Aries. My blood pressure is probably around 120 over 80, and you know, I like veggie burgers, so that's me.
All right. You're up, Tim.
Well, I usually have a voice that carries to the back, so my name is Tim Culberson, and as for Star Trek, I was in Star Trek 1 and Star Trek 2, and the one you guys are interested in is Star Trek 2, so different anecdotes for that. People won't know, but the very strange thing is that I used to have reptiles. And one of my reptiles was in Foul Play. Another one was in Dr. Detroit and some other pictures and stuff. But I had Brazilian red-tailed boas and different other things. Well, when they were shooting Star Trek, they came to me and says, Tim, do you know how we can find some like trained or conditioned rats? And I thought, oh. I said, what are they paying? They said, well, they're paying $250 to somebody to have some rats. And I said, I have rats. Because what did I do? I fed them to the snakes. So I brought 5 of them down. But the thing is, said, Tim, you can't bring them on the lot at Paramount. I says, why not? Well, you're not in Teamsters Union, transportation. Once you come on the lot, I said, okay, I'll become a Teamster. So I joined the Teamsters Union, and I was able to bring my rats in the truck out there. And the funny thing, before I went on the stage, Kirstie Alley was coming out. And I already talked to Kirstie. I knew her from different places before because I was also in Cheers. So Kirstie, I said, let me see some of the rats. And so, which I have some lovely rats with her ears, and she's a regular outfit, but she had her ears, and holding the rats. So I got a picture of that and everything else. But, yeah.
They should also know we were on the bridge together, so we're both Kahn's people. We were the super genetically engineered.
Yes, we are.
You had to be tall female, tall male.
Right. Oh, I didn't have to be a female.
You had to be male. I had to be female. Minimum height for women was 5'10", and I think, what was the minimum height?
They had to be over 6 foot tall, but I was almost 6'4". So yeah, I think it was 6'2" is what it was.
6'2".
And so anyway, we actually, like interview-wise, they had called my agent and stuff, and they said, look, we think we have a part, possibly for Tim, or one of a variety of parts, and send us in a shot just in. So I sent him in a semi-muscular shot and stuff and everything else. They said, yeah, have him come down. And they were hiring mostly like stunt people is what they were doing for us, where we could play in the whole thing when they blew it up and everything else for later on and stuff. So I was the guy that when we came into Botany, was it?
Botany Bay.
Botany Bay because I was taller than most of the guys. And so I can be up above the helmet and things like that for Terrell, who was there with his helmet on and took it off. And matter of fact, I got shots of both of them. Laura and I both have shot photos of different things out in the event area of that. And so I'm holding him there. And this is a semi-joke, so Ricardo Montalban reaches over and grabs a piece of liver to put in his ear. And that was you'll probably tell me, was actually the thing that went up inside and did his brain and caused him to die and stuff. But what he did is it was a piece of liver that he had in his forceps, and it wasn't any. What was the name of that thing anyway?
City eel.
City eel. Well, the city eel didn't have eyes or tail. It was a piece of liver that they had cut, and so that's what they were doing, coming up to do it, and then they cut, and that's what happened and stuff. So also, I don't know if Laura will remember this, but we were shooting this shot of him when he grabs
the wire.
The wire. There was a wire. There were two people behind, and he had to make it move, like not that they jerked him up or whatever. They had to have it smooth and flow. And this little handle was actually set up really for he could grab him and put it up, and that's a strange piece of that uniform. Hey, how's he going to pick him up? He can't do it like this. How can we have it dramatic? So there it was, and do it like that. So they're pulling, okay, and then sometimes nice and smooth and stuff for them to do that. So that's how they ended up doing the shot and everything else where he could hold him up and stuff like that. That's on that particular part of it. And then they had placed us in certain positions that they wanted us. And maybe it was because we were better looking than some of the others. But they placed us on not observatory, where they were shooting it at. I mean, where he was directing. What do you say? No, what do we call that? The bridge. So
Yeah,
they put us all up on the bridge, and certain other people in the front ground, etc. in that way. So that's how it sort of worked in that way.
Right.
Also, the one other thing is that if you look and watch it, when he says fire, I hit it. But if you look in the shot, when they shoot it, they have somebody with a bracelet on hitting that button. But you see me motioning to go get it, and then they do a close-up, and of course they do that in what they turn around and call close-up shots or hand modeling or this, that, and they said had somebody with whatever it was and pressed it. So I have no idea who they had that for that, but I'm the one that fired the thing, but I don't know who did the other stuff. So I guess that's
your fault.
Yeah, so I don't know. But that's and we never saw Bill Shatner. Never came on our set ever. And I don't think Ricardo ever saw him on the set either. I don't think they ever met.
No, they never had a scene together.
But I don't even think they saw. I don't even think he came down to visit, because we had a couple of the other casts that came down, and I was able to.
They rehearsed together, but because of the Fantasy Island schedule.
Yeah, because we were. Yeah, he was shooting Fantasy Island and coming over and stuff. But I can go on forever. But that's about what it was for the one section.
I just kept thinking, if you had thought about the rat thing 10 years earlier, you could have gotten a gig on Willard, and your life might have
Yeah. Well, what about Sis, a fifth with the snake that killed everything? You know. Oh, also one other thing. Sorry. There's been something, I guess, from the Trekkies, because I guess at that time I looked like somebody else, and I guess it was Will Ferrell. And because they said, if you look at the stuff and everything else, says, did Will Ferrell time travel and go back? and the thing is, you see, I mean, it's in the different things that Trekkies put out, and it says, no, it's actor Tim Culberson. So it was a funny thing. And it's funny, too.
Maybe separated at birth.
Doppelganger.
Maybe so. But the funny thing is that probably 15 years before that, they were trying to get me to do Will's stunt double. And I was already doing Nick Nolte's and Gary Busey's and some other people like that, but I didn't end up doing Will. So there we go. That's enough for me.
When you were talking about Star Trek 3, I remember the excitement we had when that movie was coming out, because they'd killed off Spock, and he's coming back.
We killed off Spock.
Yeah, you guys killed off. It's your fault.
Yeah.
I'm not going to ignore you guys for it.
He came back.
But, I remember it was a real exciting time. I mean, the whole family was there at the premiere night when it played in my hometown or whatever, where I was living. And it's the only time it's ever happened in a Star Trek film that I've ever watched in a theater. The film broke 4 times. So it was like we had to catch it on the rebound to really get to see the film entirely without any breaks. It was like a year later I finally got to see that movie without any interruptions.
Really?
And like right in the middle of your big scene. And I was going to ask you what it was like making love to Robin Curtis.
Well, there's an uncut Bernardo Bertolucci Italian version.
I've heard
of the
rumors of that
scene.
Yes.
Available in European markets only. But
I thought you might have had a copy to sell.
you know, when you're a young guy and you've got a former oil of LA model who's touching your fingers, things happen. Mr. Nimoy was nervous about it. And he said, the TV show, we started it, and that's about where we left it. Now what are you guys going to do? And we sort of just touched each other a little bit, you know, and I just glided my fingers around her, and she did the same thing to me. At one point, I really liked it, and I grabbed her, and it made her jump. And Leonard said, I like that. Leave that in. So you can see that. I think there's a little bit of that in the film. There was some other stuff that grabbed my face, but they cut that. I was very grateful because I finally read Leonard Nimoy's book, one of them, and he said there was an executive at Paramount who did not like Star Trek at all. Yeah. And he wanted the scene completely cut because he kept laughing at it the whole time. So,
really?
Yeah, so Leonard Nimoy really fought for that scene to be in. Because
that's not the reaction a lot of us, listen, I was in my, I was in my 30s when I saw it, and it was like, that was not the reaction we were getting.
Right, yeah. People
it was a pretty odd scene.
Right, people didn't, but this executive, whoever he was, and I guess they come up against this quite a bit, just thought, But what was he doing at Paramount? You know, if you don't like Star Trek, what are you doing there? Yeah. And that's like one of their biggest things, you know. You'd learn to like Star Trek even if you weren't a part of it.
Well, do you realize that it was Lucille Ball who put up the money and did everything to allow Star Trek to go on?
Exactly.
Not Desi, it was Lucille Ball who was president of Desilu Studios that time. And she allowed it to go on. My question was, in some Italian movies and some directors over in Italy, all the actors speak their own language.
Right.
Like you're speaking Italian, he's speaking English, he's speaking French, and then they just dub it in that way. So it's strange. How you doing? And you go, oh, bueno vici, and you really don't know when somebody just sounds okay. He stopped his line. Okay, now for me to talk, and it's funny in that way. So that's just the way some of the directors work over there in Italy. Sorry.
I was going to say, you were playing Spock at a teenage age. How old were you when you did the role?
I was 18 playing 17.
Playing 17, okay.
I'll tell you something else here, which Laura doesn't know. Because Laura was talking to me the other day, and she says, well, I was born at this date and stuff like that. And she says, when were you born? I just said back May. Because, Laura, I'm 78. So when I was doing that picture of when I was supposedly 18 or whatever, or 20, I was 35 years old.
Really?
Yeah,
oh my God, I had no idea.
I'm 78 now.
Oh my God.
So, yeah, because you said, oh, we must be the same age. I was born this day. And I just said back, well, I was born in May. But 1945.
Okay. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Okay.
So this is first. She's
You're
knowing about
one
this
of the
too.
original baby boomers.
Yes,
that was on the tail end of it.
Yeah.
The tail end of the boomers.
Yeah.
Wow.
So anyway, that's something. We're shocking her to tell her that. Yeah, we're the same age. You didn't. So, yeah, May. Anything else we'd like to go on or hit or whatever?
I'm really curious with some of the anecdotes from the shoot, because I know, and you said you were in Star Trek 1.
Yes.
You know, the books that I've read on both of those productions, sort of legendary, the problems they had on Star Trek 1 with the way the sets were built. It was very hard to shoot. And they opened it back up for 2, which made it look a lot cleaner, but I mean, was there any bizarre stories that came out of the first one? Because that was a major event for a lot of us original trekkers.
Most of the times, us weekly players or day players will not see that's going on, because you have your script and here's the lines, or this is where you're going to be and stuff, and we don't see it, or we're not shooting this week and you don't hear. Sometimes you get scuttlebutt or extra talk about what's going on, but I never really saw that. And it was just delays and stuff. So, and I have a nice picture of an old me and William Shatner in Star Trek One. I have that I took. That he's a young stud then and stuff. But yeah, it's amazing on some of these shows and stuff.
I mean, I can tell you from 1 to 2 what happened was, and Nick will be here to share it this weekend, was how cheap they had to be. I mean, they were overspent on 1 to the point where they were all nervous about 2, as everyone knows. And so I had a line in the script. It was, of course, plot to intercept Enterprise ready, sir. It was right there, and they couldn't give it to me because of budgetary constraints. And I'm going to have a conversation with Nick about that this weekend. I got into Screen Actors Guild later with a day player role in T.J. Hooker.
She was not the hooker.
Yeah, he's the hooker. And so, it was like a lot of aggravation on Nick's part, because the shirts and the Paramount heads were like, you got to get this going. That was, what's wrong here? Move. And he'd come back and said all the time, going, I'm never doing this kind of movie again. I am so unhappy with the major studios here. This is driving me nuts. And of course, he saved the whole movie, having rewritten it in 2 weeks, and everything he did to create what I believe to be the best film of the entire franchise.
How many other writers did they have? Because it was, somebody's going to do this, somebody's going to do that.
I know, but Nick took it and he turned it around, but just the one with Roddenberry's preoccupation with the vessel, Nick turned it around and made it about the people.
Well, then he turned around and directed 6, and 6 is another one of the more powerful entries into. I mean, I liked them all, but 2 and 6 definitely.
And Ricardo didn't want to do the project. And then he saw Time After Time, or he learned a lot more about it. Okay, I'm in. Ricardo was like, okay, count me in.
And again, that was his chest.
Yes, it was bigger than mine. It was aggravating. That was the joke I've told for 40 years. I know what I owe.
He was working out on the set too before he'd get out.
3 a.m. He'd get up and work out.
So, what do you guys think of the? I was really, as a fan, when it made television, finally, and of course it was the day before VCRs or anything, so like it would take about 3 years for a big film to make it onto TV, and that was always a big event.
Right.
But Star Trek II, Wrath of Khan, that was shown on ABC TV, was a lot different than the one I saw in the movie theater.
Yeah, I wasn't in as much.
A whole lot.
They cut the screen.
But they added a lot of stuff too. So I just wondered, from those who were in it, because they extended out the scene with Scotty's nephew. We didn't even know it was his nephew when we saw it in the theater. And a few things here and there, it seemed like a lot of stuff that didn't really advance the storyline, but it just.
I've never seen the whole movie.
You've never seen the whole movie.
No, but also what's legendary to ST2 is it was the first film really to take a big gamble and do a massive release on a bunch of VHS copies of the film.
Yes.
Which sold singularly for around $45.
Which at the time was, we jumped on that.
Huge, and they made $60,000 in a couple of days on this VHS
because at the time, because I just got my VCR and started collecting movies, most of the movies were $60 to $80 minimum.
Yeah. So
we saw like a 40, and I think with Star Trek 4, they released one for 20 for a 1995 deal. I mean, that was just scarf those up as fast as you could get.
But Paramount really took a risk and really was revolutionary with what they did with the VHS.
Absolutely. And with the video disc, they did the same thing with just before VHS came out, because I remember Star Trek was one of the first. Up to that time, you could get the 3 of them. on Laserdisc. That was the only franchise.
Was that the
Those
gigantic?
big, they're like big LPs.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had the little player,
Yeah.
and you could scratch them like an LP, so it, skip.
Then they did the director's cut thing that they did. They did the director's cut is what they did also on the new movie when they had the director do it.
Yeah.
You were going to have some of the people ask. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw it out to the audience because I got some truckers out here, and I know you guys want to ask these folks some questions that I might not think about.
Or not, then we'll just keep talking.
Open it up and have at it.
Okay, dear, you go ahead first. Go ahead and ask. We didn't use any guns, and they weren't blanks in them. So
okay. Well, that's all that. What was the hardest thing you had to do in terms of when you're doing a scene and things just didn't go the way you were supposed to have them happen? How do you recover from that?
Well, the hardest thing I had to do was when they sprayed me down with fire repellent, gave me a fire extinguisher, and said, "There's going to be sparks and fire. Just use the fire extinguisher." and I'm like, "Excuse me, I'm not a stunt person. Tim's a stunt person. Okay, we don't care, Miss Banks. Here we go. Okay, marker, go." And I'm like, "Oh my God, you see me in the background? I look ridiculous." I'm like, "What?" And that happened.
Human marshmallow.
I mean, I could have gone up in flames, but I was sprayed down with fire repellent in all my movies, so it's good. Yeah, that was the hardest thing for me. I was petrified.
Okay.
I mentioned so.
Do you have any stunts?
Stunt? No, I didn't have any stunts.
You had to
per se.
fondle Robin, which
I
is sort of a
fondled
stunt.
Robin, which was
Yeah.
a stunt.
Wait, I heard that 3 or 4 women fell for you. Is that right?
And we rehearsed that over and over.
Over and over.
How many takes?
Many.
Many.
I flubbed. Let me do this again. Come here.
What's my line?
I knew both the stuntmen who were the Klingons on that. I'd been around long enough that I knew several people on that set already. And I didn't realize where a lot of the trap doors were built in the Genesis planet that had fire pits in them that were supposed to blow up through the ground when the planet started erupting. So at one point I took a step backwards and one of the guys said, "Watch it, Steve, there's a hole there, there's a fire pit." So I said, "Show me where everything is." So they took me around, kind of went underneath, and you knew where everything was. I have been in other situations that didn't go so well, and I've learned to trust the stuntmen and other people who have their eyes open for safety as much as possible. I was in that feature film, The Hindenburg, about the Zeppelin that crashed. I played the youngest little boy on the ship, and finally talked to that real person's grandniece, I think it was. It was a German family. They had a business actually in Mexico, and the father took the family on the Hindenburg from Germany to New Jersey as a treat, and the sister and the dad died in the crash. So I spoke with this person's relative, but the set, I'm not going to say it was as bad as the Hindenburg, but I saw a guy killed on that set. I saw other people burned, and on the very last day, I myself received third-degree burns on my leg, the side of my face, and the top of my hands. So after that, I was 9 at the time.
Oh my God.
I kept my eyes peeled for safety. As far as like dramatic stuff, you change it, you be prepared to go whichever way they want. And it might not be you, it might be the light, it might be the angle, it might be the camera, it might be the set, you never know why they need it redone. But when they need you to redo it or change it, you have to think on your feet to be able to do that. And then also do the same thing, exactly the same over and over again, or they can't cut it together.
That's right.
If you're saying a line and you're looking over this way, and then you say the same line and I'm looking over this way, all of a sudden the editor goes insane.
They'll get
The
you.
editing
It's
room,
true.
yeah, and sometimes things get cut out because of a mistake like that.
I was watching Guardians of the Galaxy on whatever, Disney, and my friend Michael Rooker is in that, and I starred in a movie with him. I was top billing, Rooker was 4th. I'm so pissed. Anyway, And he's a GalaxyCon coming up in December, but they were eating lime pie, like they were eating the key lime pie in the scene of GalaxyCon. And they, you know, that pie shape could not change. So these two actors, like Loki and him, are like scraping at the pie, you know, like, okay, you know, we're eating this pie, you know. It's like, I thought that was funny.
Well, here's something that what I wouldn't even plan on talking about. We talked about that I was born in 45. Well,
Yeah.
my father was the second most decorated blimp pilot during World War II. He had 2 DFCs and an air medal. And when they made This Man's Navy with Wallace Beery, my dad did all the flying for the blimp and everything else. The only movie they really did with blimps, flew it for Wallace Beery and stuff. And I have pictures of Dad and Mom down at MGM 30 years before I even walked through the door at MGM is when he was flying and doing that stuff. And he sank a Japanese sub on the on the Pacific side, and no, German sub on the Pacific side, and on the, he sank a German sub on the Atlantic side, and then on the Pacific side, he rescued a couple of pilots that had been out there because they really were not using helicopters at the time.
Okay, now Tim, you were a stuntman.
Yeah.
So in response to your question, what you've done a lot of different things. What was a challenging moment for you?
Well, I did the stunts for Nick Nolte and Gary Busey. I did for Chuck Connors and the Rifleman. Matter of fact, Kunta Kinte actually is my son. And how I say this is that Chuck Connors was supposed to be indulging with, I think, Celia Tyson or whatever, when they, in the rape scene. And Chuck says it's an over-the-shoulder shot, so it's just him here and on top of her. And he says, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to tell her that you're going to rape her. And so they told the director, says, hey, it's just over the shot, he's going to see it, whatever. So I had to go talk to her about using a pad or how do we do this and whatever. So Kunta Kinte is my son.
You have great stories.
You heard it here first. Yes.
But actually the first movie I ever did was Cool Hand Luke. And I wasn't in a union. Well, it's not a union. I wasn't in a guild, wasn't in any of that stuff. And they had said, hey, look, we're going to shoot this. Why don't you come down and be in here and whatever. So I'm one of the background prisoners in that.
Wow.
Watch them thump on the eggs and stuff.
Well, you are old.
Yeah. Actually, I handed Delilah the shears when she was getting ready to cut Samson's hair. And then I also, his pen ran out of ink, so I handed Abe the other pen to sign that. So, but yeah, it's a lot of times when we do stunts, we are meticulous in where we're going to land, what we're going to do on that. You see the trucks, when they slide, the big ones. Well, a lot of times we'll have a 50-gallon drum of water and oil in that. And when you get ready to do that, you hit the lever and water and liquid come out. It slides easier because we don't want to tip over a 53-foot container or whatever. So it slides that and the car goes underneath it and things like that. And if you look carefully on most of the streets that they have in the problems are doing a close-up stunt, it looks awful dark. It's because they wet it down. So, or if you look at a commercial carefully sometimes, when he's okay, they're going across the desert. If you look carefully, you already see the tracks across where they had tried a couple of times and things like that.
I remember from Star Trek 2 how prayerful stunt people are. They would get in a prayer circle, they'd get very soulful and quiet and present to each other and praying to God. And yeah, that's what you would do, I was thinking to myself, before taking your life into your own hands.
Well, it's not easy, too, now in stunts. Well, like Gary Busey. I can do that, Tim. I'll do that. And he does, wait a minute, Gary. You're taking money out of my pocket because you want to do that. And they don't want you to do that, really, but, oh, you're going to be the hero and do that and stuff like that. So a lot of times they'll take yeah, I'm going to do it. And you get paid for your day rate, and then you get paid on a per stunt basis. And it's only a certain number of times, because you can only jump off that 5-story building once or twice. And then before, it was mattresses on top of cardboard boxes. We didn't have the airbag and stuff. And nowadays, you can digital stuff out. So now the actors can do it. They got a wire attached to them, and they jump out of the building. Ah! No, they have a wire on it, and then they digitize and take it out, and you see them. You don't have to have it.
I have my death scene in Wheels of Fire.
Yeah.
And like you're going to get killed, and you're going to get thrown off a cliff. Laura, you good with that? No, I'm not. Where in my contract does it say anything that I need to be doing my stunts? So in the Philippines, they couldn't find anybody my height that was a female.
So they got a guy.
So they got a guy with a wig, and they threw him off a cliff. And I think he probably landed in some mattresses and cardboard. And then in Deep in Paradise, where I was eaten by a monster, they put a hole in the ground, and then he said, you know, you're gonna fall into the hole backwards. And I went, no, I'm not gonna be doing that. I'm not gonna be doing that. So then they made it a little short jump so that they could jump cut it, and then I go another level. But they gave me a shot of whiskey before, and it was an all-night shoot. So I was drunk, I was tired, and I was eaten by a monster all at once.
Well, mostly in the stunts that we do, and doubling also, that they want you near the same size in and weight and color. They can do it up until 20, no, probably 30. It's really time. Probably up to 40 years ago now that the men did all the stunts. They were putting in. They'd wear a dress. They'd wear a wig. They do these other things. And they would do it, and it had a hard time for women to get in to do that. Same thing with the blacks or the Asian or Indian. They darken you up or whatever, and it would be somebody else, a white person, doing all the stunts for different people and stuff. And so that's what it was. But
does that answer your question?
Yeah, we now get some more something.
All right,
all right, next.
Your turn.
Next.
Just curious, did Roddenberry ever visit the set of 2 or 3?
I don't remember.
I do have a Roddenberry story, but
I never remember him there.
Visit the set. It's in my book, The Wrath of Blonde. William Shatner taught me to plug away. I was hosting a Sea Trek cruise. Joe Mote's very early Star Trek conventions, and I was emceeing, and I was introducing Michelle and Walter and Jimmy, and it was a great night, having fun, and we had Gene in the audience, and I said, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, we have the creator, the master, the man behind this whole thing, Gene Roddenberry, stand up and take a bow. Gene was in a wheelchair. So Gene's like, and he gets up and the place goes crazy, you know. And I'm like, all right, here's Gene Roddenberry. Yeah, so then we were in an elevator and he kind of gave me a look. That's my Roddenberry story.
We got to go up because this whole thing's
Got
going
me,
down
Gene
now.
Roddenberry story somewhere. Thanks for asking me.
Yeah.
Go ahead, young man. You're thinking about it.
Well, I'll segue away from Star Trek to I just learned that you doubled Red Brown in the Captain America movies.
Yes.
What was that like?
Yeah, 1979.
Yeah.
We shot. Actually, I guess I'm part of the first Captain America in 1979. So yeah, we did. I'm on the. I got photos of me on the motorcycle or with our shield, and of course the outfit is different from them. It was an HBO thing. So it was interesting because I'd already been doing other people and things, and luckily during that time I had started working out a little more and stuff. They didn't have to pin the outfit and stuff. And Reb was very nice, and probably even now, if I go up to meeting, he probably, Tim, oh yeah, you're the guy, you know. So don't, you know. But yes, it was, like I said, way ahead of time. And I lived in Van Nuys, California, down the street from where the first office of Marvel was. It was right on, as we say Sepulveda, but other people say Sepulveda, or whatever it is. But yeah, it was. It was interesting and nice, and to be able to say. Actually, later on, I had the guy that had written Captain America and stuff, I have a photo with him and he signed that. Because we too, as actors, I'll tell you a story now. As actors, sometimes it's difficult to get an autograph sometimes because I know people have passed away, and you guys have more autographs than we have because we're around them all the time. We're their friends or cohorts or whatever, and we really don't ask for anything or whatever. Okay, let's take a photo sometimes or whatever. But here's a story that goes, I'm at a golf event, and I'm playing golf in the morning. I talked with Jack Nicholson. And so that now the 18 holes is over, he's coming in. This is at the Riviera there. And I wanted to get his autograph to give my brother. So I'm walking, it's Jack. He says, hey. And as I'm walking up, I'm taking a pen out with a tie. And you see his face. Oh, it's a fan. It's not my, and he signs it. And I said, thank you. He says, yeah. So, I mean, sometimes...
I have to share. I have to share.
Please do.
It's in The Wrath of Blonde. I was a cocktail waitress in a lipstick lesbian bar in West LA.
Did you like that?
Do I have your attention?
Yeah.
And it was all gorgeous lipstick lesbians. And at midnight they let in 3 people. Can you guess who? Anyway.
Shatner.
Warren Beatty.
Oh, good.
Jose Ibar, who did hair. I guess someone needed a haircut.
Yeah.
And Jack Nicholson. And Jack proceeded to hang out at my station a lot and starts to talk to me quite a bit. And I'm like, oh my God, this is Jack Nicholson, I'm freaking out. And so I go home about 2 in the morning and he's outside leaning against the wall in a pair of sunglasses. And I go, that's you. I go, hey, come on over. So he gets in my car and we're hanging out, we're talking. I'm asking him all these questions about acting. And he's saying, I came to Hollywood to see the stars. I never thought I'd be one. And we smoked a little pot, and it was just like, wow, I'm stoned with Jack Nicholson. That was like freaky. And then Warren Beatty comes over. He's like, what are you doing out here? And so Jack is like, what's your phone number? I gave him my number. He called me at work. And to hear the whole story, you'll have to buy the book from there. But there is a whole Jack Nicholson part of my Hollywood thing. Very, very, very interesting conversation I had with him about acting. He said that his greatest challenge as an actor was working with anyone who was not at his level. And few people can get away with saying that, but Jack Nicholson can get away with saying that. But I asked that same question of Richard Dreyfuss, and Richard had a better answer. Richard Dreyfuss said, I get what he's saying. He goes, but I would rather think I could bring the person I'm with, bring them up with me. And later I'm thinking, God, that's a way better answer than Jack's answer.
Yeah.
Jack.
Can you tell ahead of time if you were Jack Nicholson and you find out you're working with so-and-so, like the list of people you're working with, and you may or may not have worked with them before, when they're like approaching you and it's the first day and you're going to shoot whatever, can you tell? I mean, is there a telltale sign, or they're not prepared, or they came in and left their underwear at home, or, that sort of thing?
Not necessarily. Go ahead. You got that. You got it. You got to say.
You got to size them up quick.
How do you work around them?
It's a dance. It really is. Quite a bit. I did a series with a lady who was a big star, and she liked to improvise stuff on the fly. And a lot of people couldn't do that. And she liked me, so I was often called to just wing it with her. I played a drug dealer for Michael Madsen in a film a few years ago, and it was scripted, I had a feeling he liked to improv. And improv isn't necessarily comedy improv, it can be dramatic improv or whatever it is. So here I was, off book, studying my lines, this and that and the other. I found a friend of mine who was a cop. He put sweetener on the table at a restaurant, showed me how the narcs do it and everything else. And I showed up, and Michael Madsen looked at me and said, "How are you, buddy?" And I said, "Oh, I'm okay. Am I working with you?" "Yeah." "All right, see you later." We showed up, he was so off the page with something else. While the camera was burning, because they didn't want to rehearse, it was a younger director just said, let's just shoot it. It's like, while film was burning, he came out with something else that wasn't even related to the scene at all. He was on another planet, you know, and just kind of looked at me like, "Are you going to be able to do this with me?" And I went right in there with him. And afterwards, the director said, "You're the only guy who's ever been able to do that with him." And I thought, oh man, I was anticipating, you know, he might throw me a boomerang. He was a really nice guy. I liked him a lot. But you know, sometimes there's good egos, there's bad egos. You're dealing with people. You know, and you got to be able to diffuse situations, size somebody up. If somebody's very powerful on that set, you don't know what's going on with them. You just got to be able to work with people. You know.
I got one on this side from you. Is that I had a scene with John Huston in Winter Kills.
Oh, wow.
And first of all, Winter Kills took us almost 3 years to make.
What?
We shot for 2 months, and they ran out of money. And so they tore down the sets, they did everything, and Bill Richard, 2 years later, finally got the money together, and I called him up and he says, "Tim, we're not going to finish your scene because we've already got what it was." And it's with Jeff Bridges and Paladin, with Anthony Perkins. I mean, this Elizabeth Taylor, they couldn't pay Elizabeth Taylor, so they told her to keep the mink stole that she wore in that. So what it is that I come through the door, Jeff comes through the door and comes into this big, gorgeous, marbled, which was torn down, marbled area where we're going to fight and tussle. He comes to the office, his dad's office. Well, I didn't know who he was, so he comes in, we tussle and fight. I grab him, and I take him up the elevator, and the doors open up, and I say, "Oh, I caught him trying to enter, Mr. Keegan." And he says, "That's my son." I said, "Oh," and I drop him. Well, what's going on is that, John Huston, so I'm going to make sure. So I go down a flight of stairs, run up the flight of stairs, get into the elevator, for I'm tired, and on the third take, he says, "Tim, act tired. All right, let's shoot it." Instead of running up the stairs kind of thing. But they couldn't afford to go back to build the set or anything else, so they cut the corners, like you were saying, finally stuck them together to make it work. And it's an interesting thing, but it's just like that. Also, on blimps and dirigibles. Blimps have helium, and the ones that blew up had hydrogen. So that's why it was explosive.
I asked Vincent D'Onofrio this question as well at one of the Galaxy Cons this year, and he said there are no bad actors. He's never been in a scene where anybody was bad working opposite him. I'm like, how is that possible? I thought, well, he's probably working in pretty well-budgeted films where they casted very carefully really good actors. Because I can't believe that. But looking back, I think it has a lot to do with memorizing your lines. Like for me, as a lead in a film, I look back and I didn't do as good a job as I should have on really memorizing my lines. And I think sometimes I made it difficult for some of my fellow actors because I could have done a better job of that looking back.
I have a phobia of going dry all the time. And, I just pound it into my head. Michael Caine's got 2 great books on acting and actors and stuff like that. A lot of it was just like set etiquette, too, of being on something, like he would say, don't spill butter on your tie, they might not have a replacement, and then the wardrobe department has to clean it. It's your fault. But I really believe in rehearsal. I don't think that you can rehearse something to death. I really believe in rehearsal, and there's very few directors who have the privilege of really good rehearsal time. And I think it's really important. I'm getting ready to work with a young guy. He looked like Stanley Kubrick when he was born, like when he was 2 years old. He had a beard and everything. We get along great. He loves art films and stuff. He took this short film that he made at the Cannes Film Festival out of nowhere, and it just swept everything. And he said, if they knew that I wrote this in my underwear in my kitchen with my dog at my feet, they'd freak out. But when I've worked with him, we've rehearsed a lot, and some of his stuff is the length of a play. he idolizes the directors that had that privilege. But often on a film, especially if it's a TV show, they're under the gun. They don't have time. You maybe rehearse it for the camera and for the people who are lighting, but you don't really have time to develop character and work with the actors to hammer out a scene, to get all the nuances as good as they should be, you know? Some of the guys who are on a series that play opposite each other for a long time, they develop a shorthand as actors, and they can just kind of feed off of each other's personalities, and you can see it on the screen. But often you'll watch a scene in something and it feels off, and it's because everybody just memorized their lines, or there was no rehearsal time. Or, yes, I was doing an episode of Emergency way back when, and the two guys on that show were going nuts. They were good actors, nice people, treated everybody fantastic. While we were shooting a shot, they sent a runner up from the Black Tower at Universal Studios, and they said, "Here's the revision. Shoot it." And Randolph Nuntuth and Kevin Ty, they got the page and they said, "Wait a minute, man, this is there's stuff in here that we didn't even know." We rehearsed the new one this morning that we got at 8 a.m. while we were having coffee, and now you're bringing another one while we're shooting it. So sometimes that happens too. You know,
Little
so
page covers.
it's a funky business. You know, now they're often shooting with 3 cameras at once because they're not burning film. You know, when I was doing a lot of my work way back when. They got pissed if you blew a line because they're burning film. It had to go to the lab and go through the suit. They had to print that the next day.
35.
Yeah, 35.
35,
The next
not
day
60.
at lunchtime,
We had a lot of
they
16
all sit there and watch
Georgia.
the dailies in a theater on the lot to see if everything came out, or if there was a bubble, or if you burped, or, you know, something like that. Now they're shooting often. You know, if everything's digital, they'll shoot it almost like a play. They'll have somebody on, you know, the leading lady, they'll have something on the leading man, they'll have a guy covering both of them, and then somebody doing wide. And the directors they'll be sitting watching everything on TV monitors like this, and they'll be calling shots while the scene's going down.
Wow.
Yeah,
I'd
like
like
live
to,
TV.
right,
Well,
I'd like to
you're-
get more of a close-up on her, you know, oh, do
Yeah.
that thing again, oh, don't worry about it, we'll fix it later on. What's interesting about that, you can play the scenes all the way through, they get it, they don't have to go into the lab. The bad thing is the discipline of having to really be on top of your game,
No.
because there might not be another shot, is kind of, I'm seeing that discipline leave the arena. And you can tell the people who have had that when they show up to work, because everybody's like, oh gosh, we haven't seen that before, you know.
Well, tell them about the pages, the different colored pages. All of a sudden you got.
Oh, yeah.
Or tell them on.
You know, for instance, yeah, like on that episode of Emergency, I think they had, you know, yellow or pink or green or blue, and then the guy came running up the hill and said, oh, here's purple. And they're like, oh, man.
Yeah, you got all color.
So each time they did a revision, it was a different color page.
Oh, wow.
And by the end of it, you're looking at your script and it looks like a rainbow. Right? And then they'll change stuff sometimes while they're shooting, if it's a feature and they've got time. So, you know, there's a lot going on a set. And sometimes people will say, oh, well, that person's mean, or that person has an attitude. You don't know what they're going through. You know, it's really hard to concentrate and look and say, you know, I love you, you're the woman of my life, I die for you, etc., etc. And there's 100 million people around doing all their jobs and looking at you at the same time.
Yeah.
Right? And trying not to flub your line where you're saying that and make it mean something.
Or them snicker or something.
Yeah.
Or a love scene.
Oh,
Love scene.
Yeah.
I've had love scenes.
There's a lot of different things on love scenes too, about patting, about this and that, or different other things too, on touching her. And that's so, you know.
unless you're doing a Italian Bertolucci version.
Go ahead, go for it.
Yeah. So, but at the end result, you know, everybody loves Star Trek.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and everything else that's out there too. I've got the things that I love as well. You know, these things are really murder to make. You know.
Anybody do blue screen?
Yeah.
I'll tell them.
And then pre-Blue Street, like the Hindenburg, they just burned the set down with the actors in it. How's that?
That's
All
as
right?
practical as it gets.
And the stuntmen mutinied on that set one day, which really pissed off the filmmakers a lot. And it kind of turned the filmmakers a little bit against the actors and the stunt people. You know, they had the deck of the ship built just about full scale. And they had guys that actually built the Hindenburg and worked on it on that set to say this goes here, that goes. They spoke through translators in German. They even had decals that said Zeppelin Company on the china that was part of the prop department that was on the tables, you know? But at one point, that whole thing, no one knew this, it was on a gimbal that would tilt this way and then it would pitch towards the windows, right? And Halloween night, 1974, Robert Wise brings all the actors into that set and he says, you guys are getting ready to land, everybody be celebratory, you know, you're getting ready to get off the ship and it's been a wonderful journey. We're going to rehearse it? Well, show them what the floor does. And so the guy pushed the button and the whole, you're talking a room bigger than this.
You said Hindenburg, you mean Titanic? Or,
the Hindenburg,
okay,
yeah. And it was, they tilted it like this. And everybody said, oh, well, that's not bad. Well, I think we can handle that. That's pretty good. You know, so the principal talent gets up against the windows and everybody's waving and this and that and the other. And Rise says, explosion. The guy hit that button, that thing pitched like this.
Yeah, they don't want to tell you because they want your real reaction.
Yeah, one guy flew out the window.
Oh my God.
Somebody else went into the tables, glass busted all over the place. You know, I mean, everybody was, there's no other word. They just were scared shitless during that shot. And he got it. But, you know, it was a really dangerous situation. So one day the stuntman went over to my mom at the time and he said, hey, get Steve out of there. They're going to kill somebody else.
Yeah.
And she said, why? You know, and they took her over there and they said, well, look, and they were painting rubber cement and kerosene all over everything. And the hippie, you know, special effects guy with long hair and a cigarette hanging out of his mouth was just kind of torching stuff. And well, I got ready to shoot, so they shut him down and made him put fireproof paneling and all this kind of stuff. And then it was later on location, something happened. My grandfather and I were very close. He had worked in silent films for years, and that's how I kind of got started in this thing. He had died while we were away. My mom split. A chick came down to watch me, was watching the movie stars, and they threw me into the scene with the burning debris crashing all over the place. And that's what happened. You know? So.
Are you okay now, or did you get a lot of therapy, or?
You know something? I'm okay. I'm fine. It took 3 months to recover from it. But one of the producers wrote a book that said I got cut by a belt buckle scratch, and that pissed me off. Because I remember that day, him walking up and saying, oh God, there's an accident. And my skin was hanging from my leg past my toe. And the nurse on the, out there at the Marine base where they shot this almost fainted when she saw it. And she took a pair of scissors, and I remember her cutting my skin off. And this guy, who was a part of the who later became a very famous producer, who's now written a book, put the bullshit story in the book that he spread around the set to keep it quiet. And that nurse was never seen again when she said he has to go to a hospital. They packed her up and took her. Now, most people involved with this are gone.
Right.
You know, the stunt guys were all on my side. They were all, oh my God, you know.
And in Wheels of Fire, where I led an army into battle, it was a real army, a Filipino army of 500 men, and they decided to shoot off their guns that day in the rock quarry so that they could get a new round of life and real ammunition. And they're falling, and I'm yelling, men this way. And I went into my hotel room, and I was in shell shock. I was literally in shell shock for a long time. I mean, just talking about it, I get kind of freaky, but so there was a point where I could not leave the hotel room after this one particular time. So what do they do to us actors and why? They need to pay us more money. Is this, are we doing fine on time? We can just keep talking all night. I mean,
Actually, we're about at the end here.
Any others at all?
Is there any, one last question? Let's take one final question here.
I just had one for Laura. Didn't you tell me last year that the woman who was supposed to have your part was the woman who was killed by Phil Spector?
correct. My role was intentionally.
I know.
You knew about Lana? Yeah, it was supposed to be Lana Clarkson who played my part, and she went home for Christmas. It was December of 1981 or 82?
I don't know.
81, anyway. And so she went home. So I got the part, and the costume had said Lana, and they changed the name. But yes, she in fact was waiting to, hostessing in a bar in her 40s there in Hollywood, and Phil Spector came in, and she went home with him, and he shot her in the entrance to his home. And it just... Phil Spector is the music legend who, and a chill went up my spine when I heard that, because we would see each other at auditions, because she was also 5'11" blonde, and she was a sweetheart, and that just there before the grace of God. And I had some close calls, but Lana was supposed to play my role.
Any last little ones or anecdotes from anybody at all?
I do have one observation when you were talking about the stuntmen being men no matter what. When you watch Annie, I've never seen any little kid grow as quickly as Annie did when she was climbing up that ladder. She went from like...
Drugs. No.
Well, I was so envious. I'd never been able to get that tall, ever. And her shape changed. And so that's what I'm saying. Going, it's got to be a guy. They're not going to let a 6-year-old kid or an 8-year-old kid do this. And all I could think of was, I feel so sorry for that guy trying to wear that dress. I mean, climbing in a dress is just not a piece of cake. So, it's like, that's it.
Can I make you laugh real quick?
Okay.
Basically, like my uncle, he stunt doubled for me when I was very small. Felix Silla, he's no longer with us. He did Cousin Id and Tweaky and all that stuff. Felix said, I said, what's the wackiest thing you did? And, he was very petite, Italian. He spoke fluent Italian, but carried himself like a cowboy. And he said, the wackiest thing I ever did was have to put on a little girl's dress with a big blonde wig and be in the elevator in the towering inferno that's hanging off the side of the building. And he said, I had a mustache because I was working on something else. So they said, make sure we don't see your mustache, right? So Irwin Allen's girlfriend is one of the women in the elevator, and they rigged it so that the thing would break and it would tilt, and Jennifer Jones's stunt double fell out of the elevator. And while all this was going on, Felix couldn't see anything because he had this little Hertz wig on his head, and he found himself smothered in Irwin Allen's girlfriend's, accoutrement, So he said over the bullhorn, he kept hearing, God damn it, Felix, get your face out of my girlfriend's... So he would just respond, I can't see a goddamn thing. So he said, I hate doubling children. I hate doubling children. That's funny. So
we can't top that, folks. No. Stephen, Laura, and Tim.
Thank you very much, folks, for taking your time, because time is the most valuable thing, and we appreciate it.